Welcome to My Life Story. I'm Brenda van Rensburg. With me today we have Pastor Arnold Neuhoff. Welcome today on the set with us.
Thank you, Brenda. Yes, I'm glad to be here.
That's good. Tell us a bit more about yourself, where you come from, where you were born, how many siblings you've got.
Brenda, I'm one of 4 children. I'm the eldest. I was born in Germiston on the East Rand. And I've got a wonderful mom, and I had a wonderful dad. He passed away in 1983. And we grew up as a fairly stable, happy family in a stable neighborhood, and we were churchgoers, and faith was a very important thing in our home. Yeah, I was a fairly happy child.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Often we find that when you have a family that has an important role, that Christ has an important role in the family, that family seems to just stick together in tough times. And I'm sure today you're going to share with us a bit more about that. Before we get to that, tell us a bit more about your family. I understand you're married and you have children.
Yes, I've got a wonderful wife, Edna. She's been a great support throughout my life and our ministry. And through the tough times, I don't think I would have made it if it wasn't for her and a very strong will that she has. We've got 2 children. We've got Pierre. He's going for 20 now, and our daughter is going for 18.
Ooh.
And we're very happy with their progress in life and their life views. We are very proud of them.
And they obviously have a fairly good relationship with God as well, it seems.
Sure.
Yes.
Pierre really has got desire to work for God, and he's prepared. He's just graduated from a sound engineering course, and he's doing a media evangelism course at the moment, preparing to work for God behind the scenes, behind the cameras.
Wonderful. That's absolutely amazing. So we see how this relationship with Jesus that you had in your family life as you were growing up was pulled through, and you have encompassed that into your family life.
Yeah,
as
and
well.
Marzan, she wants to be a paramedic. She's got this desire to help people that's in need and crisis. So, and she's had some exposure to this sort of thing, and she's doing great.
It takes a special person to do a job like that. I always say that they do special work because they are there when most family members can't be there.
Sure.
Because it's obviously an accident, etc.
Sure.
So that's a wonderful opportunity she'll have to serve others.
Very exciting, I think.
Yes,
very
absolutely.
Exciting.
Okay, so we've got a bit of background where you're from. We've learned a bit more about your family. Who is Arnold? Tell us more.
Wow, that's a complex question. Yeah, I've been in pastoral ministry for most of my years.
Was that your plan when you started? Did you want to do that?
No. I did. My dad had his own building company, and I always pictured myself being in that practical line. Later, he's planned to buy a farm, and I was not sure where to go, but at the last moment, I think the college already started. I ended up at Helderberg College studying agriculture.
Okay.
To go and farm my dad's farm for him. He had this thing, I don't want you guys to work in the building industry. That's just too hard work. That was his I want something else for you guys. So I sort of taken on this and came to the place where I went to study. But my father died in my first quarter. So,
that must have been while he was still fairly young. How old was he?
He was only 34 years old.
34, wow.
And he passed away very suddenly. It was like 5 weeks since he was, he fell sick, and It was 5 weeks, and we buried him. And this was a big change in my life.
Was he 43?
Yes.
43.
43
Okay.
years old. Yeah. And did I say 34?
Yes.
Yes. That's when I fell sick. So he was 43. He passed away at 43, and then yeah, my life has changed drastically since then. God has really called me to go into full-time ministry, and that's when I changed my direction and started studying in theology, and started a career as a pastor.
It's interesting how often you find that a turn of events takes place when somebody passes away.
Wow, yeah.
It's amazing because it's in those moments you've got your whole life ahead of you, you're planning this focus on agriculture, suddenly your dear father passes away.
Yes.
And you gain new perspective.
Yes. Yeah, I would never think, if somebody would tell me, you would have gone into, ministry, I was a behind the scenes person, not in front at all. And I would just laugh at them, it was unthinkable that I would go that route. But God really called me, and this is really so inspiring. It's been so inspiring in my life, when things go tough, I'm reminded of the fact that God has called me. It's not
Absolutely.
like, it's another job. And I enjoy every moment of it. It's been so fantastic.
And is this where you met Edna as well?
Yes, I met her at the same institution, Helderberg College, and she studied a totally different direction. But I remember when I saw her walking into that dining hall, I said to myself, "That's my wife."
That's going to be my
and
wife.
It was tough going to get her convinced that that's the fact. But yes, we are married quite a couple of years now, and God has been very good.
Praise God. Something happened that changed your life, that changed the direction of your life. Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, Brenda, I've been in ministry. We've come out of a very stable home, as I said, and things went well, until I was diagnosed with cancer, terminal cancer, in 1997. I was busy conducting a evangelistical program when I collapsed in front of my audience, and the people thought, man, I had a heart attack. I was 34 at the time, and I had this sort of minor incidences before, so I said, guys, not to worry, I'm just overstressed, just, I need to just get to bed and I'll be okay. And so I got to bed, and the next day I had to travel to a workers' meeting, and I traveled there, hour or two's drive, and when I got there, I joined in the team. They were busy for a day already. Because of my appointments, I was there late. And later the evening, when I went to fetch my luggage, I collapsed for the second time at the boot of my car. And one of my colleagues found me there. And then, we realized it was serious. So my wife, working at one of the medical institutions, really got a very good specialist to look at me the following day. And within half an hour, and I can remember the day and the date, it was like 26th of November, around about 1 o'clock the day, he diagnosed me with lymph cancer.
That's a terminal cancer, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a stage 3, and I wasn't in too good a shape at that time.
So that must have taken your world and put it upside down. Not really. I don't know if it's slow reactions or whatever, but I felt, well, I'm in good hands. These guys would know how to deal with this, and I didn't realize the seriousness of this at all at that stage. It was okay. We're going to go for a scan, and then we're going to go for a biopsy. And then we'll see from there. And then they sort of, planned what they called a sandwich package for me, where I would get
conventional medical treatment in the form of chemotherapy and then radiation and then again chemotherapy and then, see where we're going from there. There was a stage where they said, my life expectancy would be about 6 months.
With this sandwich package?
Yeah, if this is not going to work, I've got
Yes.
about 6 months to live,
Okay.
yeah. So yeah, I started this treatment not knowing any other options. This was the option. And we started the program, but I got weaker and weaker. And it was at this stage when one started asking a lot of questions, I've been in ministry then for a couple of years. Lord, why? I'm your servant, I've got such a lot to do for you. And my wife is not 30 yet, and my kids are like 7 and 5 years old. Lord, why? And I'm so grateful for the Lord giving us all the ample material to study, because I started studying. Something I did not spend enough time with in the past. So I've started studying and looking at, reasons. Why did this happen? I really came to the conclusion that this could have been avoided if I lived a different lifestyle.
Really?
Yes, that was fact.
That must have opened a whole new can of worms for you.
Yeah, it wasn't negative at all. It was
Yes.
positive. It was a challenge. I said, and I understood God's word saying, this is the natural way to healing. This is the natural way of preventing disease. And, looking at it from that two perspectives, I started doing whatever I knew best. I started phoning around, started phoning people that I thought would be able to give me some information, and I got some great information. People putting me on the, a natural way healing process. That was great, because it's just a new world that opened for me. And very exciting at the end of the day.
That sounds like it. Coming back for a moment to the fact that you were asking God questions.
Yes.
There was a time, I am assuming, that you struggled with the Lord like Jacob, and you were wrestling with Him, and you were asking these questions. Why me? And I take heed of the fact that you said, I'm in the ministry. Oftentimes people don't realize that being a Christian doesn't warrant you a free ride.
Sure.
And
Sure.
it's not always easy.
Sure.
It's not always easy. And, because of sin in our lives and because of the way that the world has become, people get ill, and there is a lot of heartache.
Yeah.
There's a lot of heartache.
Yeah.
You were going through these emotions. What was your family feeling? What was your family also moving towards? This isn't that serious, or did they see you deteriorating and started getting worried?
Sure. I hope that you're not going to ask this question, because I must be honest with you. In the beginning, I questioned God, but I wasn't. But there was a time when I was very weak, where I got upset with God. I remember I had this vision of evangelizing further and bigger and broader than just, a pulpit. Seeing it being used on TV, and it was 1998. So 97 I fell sick. 1998, I saw big organizations put new, evangelistical programs on world television. And I was involved with that, and so this was the one thing that got me more upset with God, saying, God, this is the opportunity I've prayed for all my years. A bigger way to just share the love of Jesus with people. And this opportunity is here. Now I'm sick and I'm lying here and I'm feeling as if I'm going to die. So I was getting very upset with God. And my family, they've taken, my kids were very, very young. So, I think it made a big impression on them. And to extend a negative one as well. My wife today, when I look back, she's gone through deep waters. At that time, you know, struggling with my own sort of situation, just trying to keep head above water, I did not realize the pain that she actually had suffered at that time. So it had a big impact on the family at large. Today, when we look back, I think I could honestly say it's left one stronger in the Lord. I don't know if I could say that for the bigger family, but for myself, it's left one much stronger in the Lord, with a lot more faith and knowing that He is in control.
Absolutely.
Whatever happens.
Absolutely. We go through these dips, and we oftentimes think that there's no light in the tunnel.
Sure. Sure.
And all of a sudden, because of your prayers and because of the prayers of others, that little light grows bigger and bigger and bigger.
Sure.
And once you get through that, you look back and you realize you were never alone.
Yeah.
You were never alone.
Yeah.
So tell us more about the illness. What impact did it have on you? Did you suffer any headaches? Did you suffer from the chemo, or was it a smooth ride while you were doing conventional medicine?
You know, the beginning, it was going okay. The first week, 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, it went okay. But then the chemo started doing its job,
taking its toll.
And taking its toll. You know, it does damage good cells, and it gives the cancer cells a knock. You know, but my health went down, started going down drastically, and the more it went down, you know, the worse you feel, and it sort of challenged me to study more, you know, to find out alternative ways and so on. And I came to one place during this treatment. I came to a place where I realized that I'm going to die. You know, this is no good news. I knew it. I remember at that time.
Sobering thought.
Yeah, and it was the cancer. There was pain involved. You know, it was constant coughing. You know, all the bronchial tube and so on were really cancer cells pressed on there. So it caused the irritation all the time, and I was coughing all the time, and very painful. And then, you know, with the chemo, I got weaker and weaker. I went to a state hospital. So you sit on little wooden benches. I remember the winter month, that first winter month in '98 was the worst, because it's cold, it's winter. I was in Cape Town area. And I had to go and sit in these rows early in the morning to see a doctor before 1. And, blood being drawn every week to adjust these treatments and so on. And there was a time where I was scared that I'm going to die, but then was a time that I was scared I'm not going to die. You know, I was like
just prolonging the agony.
Yeah, it was. I was just praying, Lord, just rather take me away. It was so bad. It was at this time that I started making bigger decisions where. I remember one time, if your blood counts go below 4, they stop treatment, and then when it goes below 2, they put you on antibiotics, you know, straight away, just to keep you from infections and so on. And I was convinced at this time I should not go that route, because it would break down my immune system more. So I sort of asked the medical practitioner if we can try something else natural. And he was very upset with me and said to me, listen, I'm the doctor, you listen to me, and you do as I tell you. And I played with him, and he said to me, I cannot help you. If you don't want to follow this route, then you go. And I had to leave his consulting room, and I went and sat back in the row waiting for one of the other doctors, because there could be one of 7 that would see me. So
you come in early to see a doctor, you've seen the doctor,
yes,
and he's not helped you
Yes.
because of the
Well, I understand that
the
because,
fact that you wanted to go a different
sure,
route.
he's got this protocol, and I do appreciate that. Looking back at it, he did the best
He
that he
did
could
his job.
for me.
That's
That's what he
right.
knew to do. I was not trying to do something else. So, I slipped the file back into the heap, and here I met up with a German lady doctor, and she got my file and she said, "But you did see the doctor." So I explained to her that I need to see another doctor, and I'm so glad that she would see me. And she said, "What's the problem?" And I said to her, "Well, this was the outcome." And she said, "But that's the protocol. That's what we need to do." So I said, "But I want to ask if we cannot try something else." And she said to me, now she had, there's a rows of people sitting there, and she had the patient saying, "Tell me what you want to do." And I told her about the conviction that we need to use water treatment, hydrotherapy and so on, to try and get my immune system up, with a natural way, not using antibiotics, because I felt convinced that I shouldn't take that route. And you know what, she sat and she listened to me, and then she said to me, "Okay, I'll make you a deal." I nearly fell off my chair. She said, "I'll make you a deal. What we'll do is, I'm going to, I had to go in once a week, get the blood tests, and then they would adjust my treatment according to the results of their blood tests." She said, "I want you to come in every day. Now, I want you to know that is getting myself there in the winter mornings early. That was major step. To get there once a week was like major. Now I had to get there every day. There was times I was too weak to drive there. So, that was a whole set of challenges ahead of me. But I had to just leave it with the Lord because I was convinced that God asked me to do it this way. So I said, "Okay." She said, "You come in every day. I want you to go for blood tests. I'm not going to see you on a daily basis. I'm going to see you once a week. But if there's any major change in your results, then I will call you and we're going to adjust. And this is the deal. If your blood counts go up, I'll listen to you. If your blood counts go down, you're going to listen to me." And so we had to shake on this.
And this was a bargain.
This was the bargain. And I had to really, I sometimes get very emotional about this, but I had to really leave this in the Lord's hands because, what could I do to get my blood counts up? I mean, yes, I knew some very simple hydrotherapy treatments, and we very intensely started doing those treatments. And changing lifestyle drastically, changing eating patterns, it's about lifestyle, it's not only about diet, it's a whole package. And we started looking at that intensely, and I was so privileged to go to the doctor on a weekly basis. But before I was gone there the first week, I think it was 2-3 days later, the doctor called me in.
And she wasn't supposed to call you unless there was a big
Yes,
change.
so I thought, there's something happening
this is
negative.
the end.
This is the end. So she called me in, but she was like very, chirpy, and she said, "What you doing?" And I said, "How do you mean?" She says, "What you doing?" I said, "Why?" She says, "Man, I haven't seen something like this. Your blood counts is just shooting up. Your white blood counts is it's gone, up, and I've never seen something like this. What are you doing?" So I told her about the hydrotherapy. I told in detail of my diet and so on. And the end result was just keep on doing what you're doing. You're doing the right thing. We'll just monitor it. And that was amazing. I could just experience how God was doing something very special.
That's amazing. So there were certain ongoing steps, it seems, because you've just said it's a lifestyle change.
Yeah.
It's not just a new diet. Tell
Sure.
us about the ongoing steps you had to take to maintain this, because obviously you wanted to grow from strength to strength.
Sure. I want you to know my wife was young, my kids are young, and I had this vision of working for God, using the abilities He gave me to work for Him. And so it was a letdown, knowing that, I could die. I must say this. It took one looking death in the eye and accepting the fact that I'm okay to die, I believe, before real healing started taking place. That was a real thing. But I had to, on a daily basis. So you had to give up
your own free will first.
Sure.
Surrender your own free will.
If I die, Lord, that's okay. If I live, that's okay. But I had to start living a disciplined life. And that's been great. Up to today, that's been great. I need to have set times for eating. I have a very strict diet. I need to do exercise on a daily basis. I need to keep my stress levels down. I need to avoid those things that would cause stress and so on. It's not always easy, but I have to discipline myself with that. When it comes to diet, there's some things that really prone to put you in a risk area. So animal products I had to cut out totally. That's dairy, all animal products. And when I look back, this is now going for more than 12 years. I'm feeling much better than ever before. More energetic, more alert than ever before. I don't need those things, all stimulants, refined foods. Those are things that really kill us slowly. And I had to cut that out. Oils and sugars, all these refined things, just avoiding them out of my life. And if I would have that today, I would have a reaction very, very quickly.
So your body's listening. You're listening to your body.
Yes,
now.
I have to. Within an hour or so, I would feel I've made a mistake. I could sense I've made a mistake in the decision. So it's good discipline. It's just good decisions. And what really motivates me is having this energetic, good feel. Knowing that that I'm healthy. That's a great, great feeling.
And oftentimes, once you've been ill,
yes,
you then appreciate your health more.
Sure.
There must have been a time when you started feeling the energy coming back into your life, into your limbs, into your lungs.
Yes.
And you must have been just absolutely in awe with what God was doing.
For sure. That is the feeling that really inspires me on a daily basis. Waking up in the morning and feeling this excitement. I've got another day, and I've got this little saying, one day closer to God's coming.
Amen.
One day closer. 12 years back I didn't have that vision, but that's been really so inspiring. And having that energy to get up and go and do all the things I want to do for that day, it's really motivational. It's great.
Now there must have been a couple of verses, chapters or passages from the Bible where you anchored yourself. Do you want to share some of them with us?
Yeah, there's quite a number of them. One of them I've made my motto in life is found in Philippians 4 verse 13. It says, I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me.
Amen.
And you know what? Times when it went tough and rough, that verse I would just cling on to it. I would go, and I would call it my motto. So when people use that, I would say to them, "I'll give you permission. It is my motto."
But you can lend it.
You can use it for a while. It's been great. And then a verse just not far from there is Philippians 4 verse 19. Just such a great verse. It says, "My God will provide in all your needs according to the richness in Jesus Christ."
Yes.
There's other portions like Romans 8, the whole chapter, but verse 18 and verse 28, and then verse 30 to 39. If one can live by those promises, it's wonderful. And although people might say there's no chance, Luke 1 verse 37 says, with God, nothing is impossible.
Absolutely.
And, clinging on to these little promises has really been so great. It's been the motivation in my life, but I've seen in so many other people's lives.
That's wonderful. I think something has just stuck in my mind, and that is that you said we have to surrender our own free will.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah.
And this is all God asks. And then when we anchor ourselves in these promises,
sure,
it lifts you up. And despite not feeling well, despite the illness, you feel like you are okay with God. That's amazing.
It's a great experience.
That's amazing. Yeah. Tell us a bit more about what you're doing now.
Well, that's something very exciting.
You're a busy man, I hear.
Yes, as I said, I was in pastoral ministry, and I am still, but just with a specific emphasis. Out of this experience, I realized that many people run the risk of contracting lifestyle diseases, and many times it's just because we don't know better. I cannot say that for myself because I grew up in a home where we knew these principles and we lived them out to a certain extent. Personally, I did not do that, and that was a great downfall. So I had this passion of sharing with people, teaching people practically how they can minimize the risk of contracting these lifestyle diseases, and those that already have it, to really help them on a road of recovery. And so we started with a health ministry, in the ministry having a health ministry. So starting teaching people, starting creating training modules, training weekends where we teach people. And what was really important to me is we do a lot of talking, but really doing this practical where we live it. That's where the power lies. We talk a lot of things. We've got a lot of belief systems and we say this is what I believe, but that really comes to fruitage when you do it. So this is what the programs are about, is doing it. So when people come to the program, when we say exercise, we do exercise. When we say eat a good, balanced, plant-based diet, then we put people on that diet and we eat it and we see the effect. When we say do hydrotherapy, we teach them how to do hydrotherapy and practice it. So all these principles very practical at the end of the day. And so this ministry started with just giving treatments here and there or training here and there, and then it sort of spilled over into treatment where people would come and say, I've got a lifestyle disease, diabetes, my blood sugar levels are uncontrolled, help us to get it controlled. And we started setting up little lifestyle centers to start treating these sort of lifestyle diseases. Things like diabetes, one that's really, heart disease, cancer, hypertension is one of the big ones. And stress, depression, just dealing with those cases. So now from training, it went into treatment. And it grew further until we, in 2000, developed a non-profit organization called Be Free Lifestyle. So it was registered and we started focusing on 5 areas. And the 5 areas is number 1, training. And we do quite a number of different training modalities. Would you like me to share some of them?
Yes, please do. Please
We've got a 10-day practical module 1 basic lifestyle program. So we train people in 10 days' time how to live a good lifestyle. We take 1 week and 2 weekends, and that forms the 10 days. And man, amazing results. We would have people coming on there, just want to learn some more. Some of them, want to balance their sort of weight. A week, 2 weeks ago, we had a program and one lady had to lose some weight and she lost 7 kgs in 10 days' time. No diet. She would say, well, I've eaten more than I would have ever eaten. And no strenuous exercise program. We would just go on good strolls in the mountain, on the beach, sitting in class, training. We've got a more advanced one like that, also 10 days. It's called the Be Free Module 2 training. And then we've got other programs like basic life support. We get accredited trainers in to do that. And then CBT, that's cognitive behavioral therapy. So we teach that. And we teach people how to conduct programs to help people stop smoking.
That's wonderful.
And we teach people how to cook healthy. So we've got cooking schools. And
I like this idea because it's practical.
Yes.
A lot of time people get a book and they don't know where to start.
Sure.
And before you know it, it's in the bin and they're back to the old way. This is practical, and
Yes.
this is what we need to focus on, is how to teach people and learn ourselves.
Yes. Yeah, that's been amazing. So this is our main focus is training. Then we've got lifestyle centers. Now, you know, the lifestyle centers that we have is basically training centers. So that's where our PracMod students, that's a 1 year training course that we have. So they would come in, do a training course for 1 year. That's where they will be trained how to do all these sort of treatments, and practically with experienced instructors, you know, they will work with the clients and gain experience that way. At the lifestyle centers, we teach, you know, health principles. That's part of our program. So a person would come in for diabetes. We won't only treat him, we would train him. We train him to have a good lifestyle, and they go away not only with blood sugar levels now stable without medication, but they would go with a new lifestyle. And man, the testimonies that we get is so powerful.
That's
People
amazing.
that's been struggling for years are helped, and they just testify. And you know what happens? When somebody's touched in a practical way like that, they all of a sudden want to touch other people with that. And so, yeah, we've got now a volunteer group forming where they say, you know, I've been so touched, I want to touch other people, use me to do that. And so this is how the ministry has been growing bigger and bigger. So that's a second focus, is lifestyle centers. The third one is health awareness programs. We present health awareness programs in public places, schools, tertiary education systems, churches, corporate companies. We do things like a brain power series. That's one of the hits for the last 2 years, where we go and teach people how to enhance memory. And it's not learning techniques. It's once again very, very practical, where we teach people what you could do to look after your brain better and have the result where you now all of a sudden naturally going to remember things better.
We often forget about the brain, don't we? Because we function without having to physically do something about it. But if you think about who you are, it's your mind, it's your brain. So how important is it not for us to keep that brain healthy and active?
For sure.
Exercising it? It's amazing.
The only connection we have with God, our Creator, is through our brain, and specifically our frontal lobe. And the frontal lobe is the organ that's firstly affected and compromised by bad lifestyle.
Bad lifestyle.
So, you know, the moment you change it, and I think this is the one thing that happened in my case. As I got healthier and regained my health, it's as if my frontal lobe started working better, and I started understanding things better. And this is how the Brain Power series was developed. And this is something we've been, you know, presenting to most of the universities in the Cape area. We've been presenting this to schools, as I say, corporate companies and churches. Many denominations just asked me to come and do weekend programs on the Brain Power. And the results is just amazing. The fourth focus area is health expos. We go into communities. We do this in malls, once again, schools, churches, corporate companies, and we go and do health evaluation programs. We go through around about 8-step or 8 test stations, where we at each station would test, you know, like blood pressure, fitness. We would test BMI, hydration. We'll feed all this information into a computer program, and it would spit out a whole, you know, recommendation. And then we would have health counselors counseling the people. And once again, we've seen miracles happening here, because we would evaluate a person, give him all the tips within 15-20 minutes, and we would get to the same company a year later, and this person would stand in front of me and say, "Hi, can you remember me?" And I wouldn't recognize the person.
Amazing.
Because he lost 40 kgs by just following the principles, very simple principles that we've taught them in 15 minutes.
Amazing.
It is really rewarding.
And this sounds like, once again, practical.
It's very practical.
And personal.
Yes.
Because you get to speak to people on a personal level, and also where it is most important for them, which
Sure.
area
Sure.
is troubling them.
Sure.
And a lot of people have health problems, and if you can maybe help in that regard, what
Yeah.
a powerful tool. What a powerful
Well, the
tool.
result is when somebody's touched like that, it's basically what happened in Jesus' time. When Jesus healed somebody, what was the reaction? There was like praise for him, and they wanted to follow him.
That's right.
Now, this is what happens when Jesus touches people today. I see them coming and saying, "How can I help to touch others?" And that's been really very rewarding. So we have this health expo. That's our fourth focus, and our fifth focus is health resources. So we develop health resources. We develop books. We develop DVD productions. We develop training manuals on practical health. This has been used at schools, at churches, at corporate companies. It's available to anybody and everybody. But something that was really needed in the past, there was not much on it, and now there is a lot. I think the sixth focus that I've not mentioned, that we are now starting to implement, is getting health depots or health food depots, especially in the more rural areas, where people can, get in bulk whole foods,
Yes.
unrefined foods. When we go to our shops, it's white bread and white rice and those foodstuffs. The packages God has packed it in has been tampered with by man.
Altered.
So we take things away and we put some things, and it's really not what our bodies need. So we want to go back to whole food. So when the grain comes off the field, it is ground up, and the whole grain is used to bake the bread.
And therefore the name Whole Foods.
Whole foods, yes. And going for teaching people to go for whole grains, unprocessed foods, fresh fruits, fresh vegetables,
Natural.
grains, nuts, seeds, those things, instead of processed white things.
And it's amazing because, like you've rightly said, when somebody has experienced this change
Yes.
personally,
Yes.
that will then move on, and they will want to touch other people's lives. I've just realized that God has granted you your wish. Do you realize that?
As I said, I must really bite back the tears, and I get the goosebumps, for exactly that. Because, at the time when I was very upset with him, I said, Lord, this is the time. And now I'm sort of lying here, and the guys out there are putting up dishes and things to be able to receive these broadcasts, and I'm not part of it. Looking back, I just thank the Lord for this experience, because it changed one's ministry, where it's not just ministry out there, it's now personal. It is, it gives you a personal feel for people's pain and their needs, and the real God that we have, that really wants today to address that. He wants to heal us.
Absolutely.
He wants to do something for us. And yeah, you're right. I think when I look back at it, I can say, thank you, Lord, that my dad has passed away in 83. That's a hard thing to say. But I don't think I would ever have gone into the ministry if it wasn't for that fact. It was that event that made me look for my real father. And I could spend another 2 hours telling you of all the miracles, even while studying with very, very, low resources, financial resources, how he's just done miracle on miracle because he wanted me to be there.
Amazing. amazing.
But I wouldn't have been there if I haven't met my real father. I had to lose my earthly father to meet my heavenly Father.
Wow.
I also thank Him for the fact that I lost health and nearly lost my life, because that was like a brick against the head experience where I had to go and stand still, look at life from a different perspective, knowing that He's got more in store for me than just preaching from week to week.
That's amazing. Would you like to share something with somebody watching who might have a similar experience right now, who might be still struggling? What would you like to say to them? An encouraging word or two?
Yeah, I would love to tell our listeners today that with God nothing is impossible. Even though there's no hope, with God there's hope. And it's never too late to make changes. It's never too late. If you would start making small lifestyle changes today, the results at the end of the day would be just astronomical. Don't miss the opportunity of preventing disease. But if you are in that position, there's basically three things that I would really encourage. Number one, I would really encourage that one looks at lifestyle as a whole. And if you need more information, you need to just find somebody to help you to find those principles. Live a disciplined life. Make things right with the people around you. Start loving life. Start living to the fullest. Start putting your hand uncompromised into the hand of Jesus. He's the only answer. And in cases where there's no hope, there is hope with Jesus. Brenda, the one thing I've seen and that I've experienced in this last 12 years is there is life and there is light where Jesus is.
Absolutely.
That 4-letter word, hope, has been a very important word in my vocabulary. Where there's no hope, with Jesus there's hope. Even with diseases, and even if it's diseases where the verdict is there's no hope, with Jesus there is hope.
Amen. Pastor Arnold, I would like to thank you very much for sharing this message with us.
Sure.
We know that God is using you in a powerful way to reach people in need, and we want to pray with our friends watching, that they will carry you and the Be Free team in their prayers.
Sure.
That God will help you to reach others, that God will touch those people to touch others.
Sure.
And I just want to thank you for being a vessel willing to be used.
Amen. I thank the Lord of therefore.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Absolutely. Thank you for spending some time with us. Thank you for coming to watch my life story. See you next time.